handle the truth.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Saturday night Cell Block. How's everybody doing? I pray that everybody's blessed, happy, comfortable, tuned in, got your bellies full, and you're ready to sit back and enjoy a nice little show, man. So tonight, before I get into story time, I'm going to give you guys a little update on just what's been going on, man, because I really don't talk about me too much. Everybody always says I'm very good about talking about me. I don't feel like I am. So before we get into it, I'm going to talk about me a little bit, just to give you guys an idea of, what I do on a daily basis, man, trying to bring all of this together. And it's coming. It's coming together, man, like everything I dreamed about. Sitting in that cell so many years ago, mapping this stuff out, contemplating, thinking, how's this stuff going to work? How's it going to come into play? And it's just coming together. And I guess the importance in this message is I did not allow anything to put doubt in my head. I believed in myself. I continued forward through the sludge, through all the obstacles that was in my way. And I have many, many, many more obstacles to get over. But as I pass one obstacle, my confidence grows. So even though that I have so many more obstacles in front of me, it's no problem because I've conquered so many, so I'm proud of myself, and the message in that is that it's okay to be proud of yourself. It's okay to sometimes just to sit back and just say, man, like, I'm doing this, man, we're doing this, and be proud in that, so, man, great day. I had a wonderful woman over here by the name of Angie Hatfield. She's actually, tuned in tonight. I have been working with a gentleman by the name of Craig Powell, who is associated with an organization called PowerNet, who is up under PERC. And I'm hoping I'm saying that right. And then I had another gentleman over here by the name of Damon Thrash, and his company is inktoink.org. And this is just a few, right? But this is the power core that is coming together to bring all of these organizations. Like, these people are doing some great, great things. All three of these people that I've talked to. And the blessing in that is that they're all doing things different. And it's again, this is what Coming Home Coalition is. This is what this hub is the war room, to bring everybody in and to correlate, plan, strategize, bring individuals, get representatives in here, write law, change things. So it's these things that we're doing. And today was a big step in that. So I did get an agreement from Mr. Powell and PowerNet that they have some awesome programs that they are going to utilize this space for. This is what I dreamed, for me to provide a space for all of us to come together, because one of the biggest issues that we had coming together was ego, right? It was it was the ego of each organization wanted to be the boss hog. Nobody wanted to feel lesser than. And this organization that I am creating is allowing these people to come in all together, right? There is no boss hog, so it's just a beautiful thing that's coming together. And I'm doing this for the people. All of this is for the people. These are human beings that are like-minded in me, and that we just want to get things done for the people. We see these big name organizations that collect all this money and absolutely nothing gets done. Nothing gets done. And the soldiers that are out on the front line, like Angie, right? they're begging for scraps because all of these large organizations have already sucked up all this money, and then they divide it and appropriate it to who they want to, whoever pockets they're tied to. And by the time it gets down to us, the individuals that are actually in the streets doing things, we don't see it. This coming Monday morning, I have an appointment with the ever important county commissioner, Mr. Harry Cohen. I want to make sure I get his name right. I've been calling this man Henry. I don't know why. So I have been training myself to say Harry, because the last thing I want to do walking into this man's office is disrespect his name and then turn around and ask him for some money. So that probably won't fly too well. So Mr. Harry Cohen, I will be in his office this Monday morning bringing these programs. Mr. Damon Thrash's program is a financial empowerment for low income. Again, a lot of these classes, majority of these classes are going to be available here at this place, free, right, to the community, for the community to come and educate themselves on parenting, on incarceration, the returning citizen, what all that entails. Life coaching. I offer walk-in life coaching for anybody that just needs to vent about things, have some emotional grief. Instead of taking that negative energy into your home, you could stop by and chat with me for a little bit and just get things off your chest, maybe figure out an answer or two as to why things are occurring the way they are. So this is what this community hub, and it's going to be a hub. It's going to be a direct link to anything that you need. This is what we're doing in the Tampa Bay area. So, meeting Mr. Cohen then next Thursday on the 15th. We're all going to be meeting back. We're all going to be meeting back here for another power meeting to really strategize and start mapping out things, man, because all of us are on the same page when it comes to, listen, I'm tired of talking about this. I've been in meetings. We've done this. We know we drudge out all the problems that we all know over and over again. We lay out solutions, but nothing is being implemented. Talk is cheap. Those are the updates. So, moving on, right? Tonight's story time. This is an important story because this is a lot of what goes on in our youth right now, is influence, power of influence, and how gangs are taking advantage of suburban kids and their boredness, their lack of things to do, productive, positive things to do, and the influence that these rap artists and such have over our children. Specifically speaking about this individual, his name was Jimmy. When I got to Beaumont, I had my own issues. I've laid that in several different podcasts. But Beaumont was an experience for me in itself. And I truly feel like I had to be the individual that I was in order to survive that experience, literally. No exaggeration. I had gotten into my issues at Beaumont. And I was pretty much on an island there for a little while. I had some people that were looking out for me behind closed doors because they were different races, different gangs, things like that. But the respect that I carried for myself carried a lot of weight with real people. Like I always say, men always respect men no matter where you're at. So I think really that is kind of what saves me from a lot of altercations. But I had my own issues, specifically with the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas, and them and I just did not jive too well, and a story was created to turn pretty much every white person on that compound against me. Because I'm from Florida, and in the federal system, you can go to any institution in America. They can send you anywhere. So Florida and Texas do not get along hardly at all. Hardly at all. So, these were the experiences that I was going through. I was in my own tense world of survival, and my thought process was only on me at that time. I had no room to think or concern myself with anything going on outside of my skin, because every day was a tumultuous day for me for several years straight. But Jimmy comes along. Now, Jimmy was an odd case because who I was, anytime that somebody from Florida, a white kid, somebody from Florida would come, they would send them to the independent car first. The independent car is ran by people in Texas. So pretty much what it is if you get out there, if you're not a skinhead, if you're not a racist elite, or anything to do with any kind of separatism along that fashion, then you're pretty much considered a wigger or a wannabe black. This is their mentality of how they look at it. So if you're coming out of Florida, of course you have a lot of white people coming out of Florida like me, who's just been integrated in the poor communities and whatnot, and we have a lot of urbanism to ourselves. So they don't like that. This was the conflict that I had. Now, because I carried myself in such a respectful manner over in that compound, it was very hard for them to get people not to like me. Everywhere I went, people liked me. I'm a cool dude. So they had to concoct a pretty serious story in order to get people to turn their backs on me, so that then they couldn't have their way with me or whatever, because I didn't want to join their ideology, let's just say. So I had my own things going on. So one day, right, towards the end of my stay at Beaumont, because I'm waiting to get the hell out of this place, right? Like, damn, getting out of prison. I just want to get out of Beaumont. At this time, this is my only concern, is just getting out of here without getting stabbed, beat, anything of that nature. I just want to get out of here. The rest I can deal with. So towards the end of this kid named Jimmy gets off the bus. Little white kid, 20, I think, 21 at the time, had a 5-year sentence. No tattoos, but one tattoo on his right wrist. And this tattoo on his right wrist was tribal, and then on the top was a writing that said boss. BOSS. Now, to anyone that understands what that means, that is gang affiliation for Gangster Disciples. That's GD, where boss, anything of that nature. Anytime you see tattoos that say boss, many other ones as well. I need to do a gang affiliation tattoo show. But boss is recognized as Gangster Disciples. Now, this kid was as soft as day old butter in the sun, right? He had no experience with any kind of violent life. You could see it in his face, and he probably was maybe about 5'8", 5'9", maybe 6 foot, and probably 160 pounds. No muscle on him, This was just a kid, your typical kid that stayed in the basement, played video games, and wanted to do cool stuff. So right away, as soon as he hit the compound, he was questioned about his tattoo, because these are identifiers, right? We already know about them as soon as we're sizing you up, we're gauging you. So as soon as he walked in the door with this tattoo, he was being asked about that, because Gangster Disciples is known as a blacker skin gang, Definitely he did not fit that criteria. When you looked at him, you did not think gang member, let alone Gangster Disciples. So here he was questioned about that, and he ended up happening to come to the same unit I was in. So he was sent to me immediately. And the speaker for the independents at that time said, here you go. This is this is somebody you need to watch out for. This is your problem. He's from Florida, a white kid. We're not taking this dude. You deal with him. So I say, okay, he's from Florida. I'll go check him out. So I go and I talk to Jimmy, and him and I sat at the table. He hasn't even gotten to his room yet, right? This is how serious this stuff is. Like, you've been on a bus for 14 hours. You've been up since the day before, since like 3 o'clock in the morning. The first thing you want to do is get in your cell, hit the bed, and crash. So he's just sitting there with his stuff that he gets from R&D when you come through. And before you can even go to your cell, people want to know who you are, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him and I'm questioning him about, like, dude, what do you got going on here? And he's like, I'm a GD. And I'm like, man, you're not a GD. Like, what, like, for real, what's going on? Did you get this in jail? What's really happening? And he's like, no, I'm a GD and such and such. So I'm like, okay, where are you from? So he said, I'm from Panama City. Okay, you're from Panama City. Backwoods Panama City. So I asked why. I said, who initiated you? So he gave the name. Of course, I don't know who he is, but I had an affiliation with GD, who happened to be a white dude. But this was a legit dude out of Memphis, I believe, Memphis, Tennessee. And this was a pure gang-banging white dude. You could tell he's been in it his whole life, tatted from head to toe, and had to carry a lot of respect with a lot of people in a compound. And his name was Mikey. Mikey and I was okay. We were talkable. You know what I mean? Because even though what was going on with me, people were apprehensive, but like Mikey with these gangs and some of these other gangs, white dudes within them gangs, again, they saw me for who I was in front of them and how I presented myself, and what they were hearing did not jive, but again, it didn't affect them. They had nothing to do with it. I was not part of their cars, their crew. They didn't know me. So it was just, best of luck to you, buddy, but you ain't got no problems with us. So this is where I'm collecting the information from him. I asked him if he's a rat. I asked him if he has sex charges, anything of that nature. He tells me no. Of course, he locks eyes with me then. I believed him 100%. He was in on a small dope charge. And I asked him in that moment, like, what are you going to do with this? Right? Because the problem is that I don't really think you grasp the seriousness of what is on your wrist and what that entails. And he's like, well, I'm part of a crew and I'm blood in, blood out, and all the propaganda that the rappers spew out, is what he's parroting. So I say, okay, let me talk to a partner that I know tomorrow, right? Go and get you some sleep. Let me talk to dude tomorrow and figure out what he wants to do about this. This is his decision. I really ain't got nothing to do with it, And that was it. We got up the next day. By this time, Mikey had already heard about it. We caught each other at breakfast time, and I was talking to him and gave him the rundown. And he's like, man, are you kidding me? He's like, listen, off the record, like, we're going to dog this kid out. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to dog this dude out. We're going to have him carrying stuff. You know what I mean? Because we know that he's never put in no work. And that's just what it's about. So we're going to be doing this. And I say, I understand that, man, but and the kid really don't understand what he got into. And what it was it was just him and a couple of his friends. They were bored in the neighborhood. Some black dude came through, was a GD, and he was just rounding kids up, suburban kids that were bored, were rebellious, wanted to live the gangster life, and he's just initiating them. So they ended up tracking down who it was. He did have initiation rights, but I don't think they were too happy with what he was doing, his practices. However, with Jimmy, at this time, I'm asking Mikey, like, what's he got to do to get out? Now, once you get initiated into a gang, you give an oath. right? This is an oath that you give, that this is your loyalty. This is before everything else. Sopranos, all of this stuff. This stuff is taken serious. This is life or death for a lot of individuals. I understand gang mentality. I have a certain respect for it because I understand why gangs initially were created. Today's gangs is just like everything else: power, money, greed, ego, narcissism. So today's gangs is nothing what gangs initially represent, and a lot of the OGs, retire from their units because of the path that a lot of these younger kids are taking. So Jimmy had no idea. He had no idea, and Mikey was giving it to me raw because that's what we do. He's like, man, we're gonna dog him out. Who knows what's gonna happen to this kid, So Mikey, like, what's it take to get the kid out? So we sat there and contemplated, and Mikey said something to the effect, if memory recalls, that he had to go into a cell for 3 minutes with 4 dudes. He chose who the dudes were, 3 minutes, and he would be done with it. He would have to have that tattoo covered up, removed. It was his only tattoo, and that would be it. So I said, okay, bet. And this is what I expected, and this is the cost. This is the price, and that's cheap. That's getting off cheap. That's getting off with the understanding that you were just some punk kid that got involved in something that you had no idea what you wanted to get involved in. And you're going to be taxed for that. You're going to be taxed heavily because there's a domino effect to all of that. So I went back. I went back to Jimmy and I talked to him and by this time he's already pretty much heard a lot of what is gonna happen to him. And he's scared now. He's scared shitless. He's not gonna check in. He don't want to check in. He don't want that on his jacket. He's trying to do the right thing, Jimmy. So I sit down with him in his cell and I tell him, I say, listen, I can get you out of this, man. For real, on some real time, I can get you out of this. This is what it entails. You got to go 3 minutes with 4 dudes that he chooses, and that's just what it is. And you'll be out. It'll be signed. You know what I mean? And you will have no affiliation anymore. You'll have to be covered up, stripping, however you want to do with that. Jimmy said no. This dumbass kid, man, said no. He's like, he's like, man, I'm in it. He's like, I gave an oath. I gave my word. And he's like, yeah, it was a mistake. I wish I didn't do it. But he's like, man, it is what it is, And I respected that. I honestly really did. And I just told Jimmy at that time, I said, well, you no longer can come to me about anything. Yeah, we can kick it or whatever as much. I said, I'm on my own thing right now, but you got to go to Mikey. I showed him who Mikey was and whatnot. And I said, you just got to get with Mikey from here on out, and that was pretty much it. They got him moved out of that dorm and they got him moved into the other dorm, and straight away, the next time I saw him, now mind you, he's only been on here for a day. This was the next day. 2 days later, I see him in a complete jacket. Right? Now, this is Beaumont, Texas. This is just south of Houston. You know what I mean? This is, when was this? Because I left, I want to say this was like July, August, and full prison jacket, the pants, the khakis, boots, and he's going across the compound and got hammed up. Hey, you, come here. Where you going? Now, see, he brings attention to himself first and foremost because he's a white kid, right? He's a white kid, and no normal white person is going to be suited and booted like that. That's what we call suited and booted. No normal white kid is going to be suited and booted in that fashion. So you're automatically bringing that attention to yourself. With the black people, the black dudes, so many of them would walk around with these jackets and such on that it was just a common thing, but not too many of the white dudes, So, hey, you, come here. Let me see what you got. Started patting him down. Man, this kid had probably 13 shanks on him, right? Some shanks small, but he had bone crushers on him. Now, what a bone crusher is anything that's about anything that could maul, anything that could hit bone, anything that could kill is called a bone crusher. And that carries a whole separate charge. It carries a whole separate time. Because if I'm just carrying around an altered pen, right, it's hard for me to kill somebody with this here. I can puncture a bunch of holes in them, and it'll do a lot of damage. Sure, it'll get somebody up off you, but it's gonna be very hard to kill somebody with a pen, unless you hit strategic places. But man, some of these shanks are machetes. One hit, one kill, and this is what they're designed for: is large riots. Just to go through the crowd, just hacking with these things. And his sentence went from, I don't know what he ended up getting, but I know he ended up getting another 3 charges stacked on top of his little 5 years that he had. I heard about that later on. Once I left, I ran into somebody. When I got back over here to Florida, I ran into somebody that I knew down here that told me about Jimmy getting hemmed up and him catching, I want to say he caught like 13 years on top of his 5, and all that does is just spiral and just keep going. This kid, he could still be locked up now, he could still be locked up now with a possible life sentence, all just because he was scared. I don't believe that it was, he wanted to play that loyalty crap. I honestly believe he was just scared. He was just scared to wear an ass whooping, man, like so many of these kids today. So many of these kids today are just scared to get into a fight, be bruised for a little bit, so they would rather pull out a gun or try to avoid that in any way that they can. The moral of this story, man, is what always looks good up front isn't always good in the back. And what I mean by that is, we're allowing our children to be influenced by these reckless entertainers because they don't care about our youth. All they care about is getting money, securing their financial needs, because they know it's a dirty world as well. And they're trying to eat as much as they can and preserve the lifespan of their family. And they'll do that at the cost of our youth, right? This is the soul that they sell. So they do this at the cost of our youth by creating the element that they have, having these kids, our children. When you go through TikTok, you're seeing these young girls, like, they're putting their whole business on TikTok. You know what I mean? I mean, like, everything. Talking about yoga, stretching. You know what I mean? And these are young women, and TikTok is promoting that, because I know damn well if I get on there with some leotards or some skin tights and go to do some yoga, man, my thing wouldn't make it past 3 views, But so is are we paying attention to our youth? All jokes aside, are we paying attention to our youth and being in tune, or are we allowing these devices to substitute our parenting? We're allowing these devices to parent our children so that we can run amok and do what we want to do. And I think it's the latter. I honestly think it's the latter. And this is why our children are just freaking off the chain, because we're just not in tune. We're not in tune with what these entertainers, these messages that they're portraying to these kids, that gangs are cool, killing people is cool, selling drugs is cool, and you can have all of this stuff. And yet these entertainers have done none of that. I don't even know how they're allowed to do that. For me, that's false advertising, But It's crazy, man. You know what's crazy? When I was a kid and Luther Campbell, Two Live Crew, was fighting against censorship, man. And they were trying to censor his music. And really, kudos to Two Live Crew and Luther Campbell for that fight to preserve our censorship, man. We really don't understand the fight against this censorship and how long it's really been going on as to what can be produced and what cannot, and what the American people are allowed to listen to or see and what they cannot. But going back to that censorship, I can understand. I truly, truly can understand what they were trying to prevent at that time. And this is a double-edged sword because, if you're not familiar with Two Live Crew, you would have to look them up. But it's that they were the kings of the booty era, So it was the disrespect of the women, and such that America did not understand. This was a culture that came out of the deep roots of urban that white America just did not get it all. And they saw it as vulgar, they saw it as ugly, and they saw it as a demon that was going to corrupt our children. And now as an adult, seeing Miss Yoga, Miss the 18-year-old Yoga on TikTok, you have to ask yourself, like, how much influence did that have? And how our children today have to be pimps and hoes to think that this is the intention that they're getting, And these video games, I'm a video gamer, I play. These video games are off the chain. So here again, while you're out here watching your 3-hour football game and your child's in there playing this video game, are you in tune with what is in this game? What is being drilled into this child's head? And is this child intelligent enough to decipher the difference between this video game and reality? Do they understand that this is not reality? You just running around ripping people out of cars and shooting them in the head and taking off is not reality. It's a video game. You know what I mean? This is where if that's your fantasy, you can live that fantasy out, but that is not reality. Are those children being taught that by these parents? First and foremost, you're not even supposed to get the game until you're 18 years old, but how accountable are we holding those companies for that? How easy is it for these kids to get these games at 13, 14 years old? I know when I play GTA online, it's nothing but 12 and 13-year-olds. And these people talking about like they're straight Sicilian mafia, So how are these kids leaving this game and going into their elementary schools? Straight off the game, playing this game all morning, thinking they're Sicilian Mafia or Gangland Central, and then they're going into the school, possibly with the same kids that they were just playing online with, and they're carrying the same enactment in their school, in their classrooms. How accountable are we to be held as parents for that? So these are questions, man. These are questions that the household needs to sit down and get a grip on. Like, get a grip on your house. Really, if you're a man, if there's a man in this house, that man, get a grip of your ship, man, and make sure that your ship is right, that the thought process is right, that there's morals, that all of these things are in place. So that's all I got tonight, and that's my lecture of the night. I'm not gonna lecture no more. Absolutely, Angie. Unfortunately, there are some kids and some homes where the bad influence is the parent. So it's coming to grips with knowing that. Listen, parent, if your child is out of control, it is you. Somehow, some way, it is you. You are the inhibitor. You're the toxic parent. You're inciting in some kind of way. Maybe you're sarcastic to him and he's reacting to that. Some kind of way. Our children are a reflection of us. Our children are a reflection of us. This is what I say, man. People laugh at me when I say it, but it's so true, right? But scientifically speaking, in my mind, is true. Okay? So, children are like animals. Children is like dogs, let's say. And it's not to compare and say that a child is a dog or like a dog, but in a sense that it's animal, right? And it's animal in the sense that all it knows is physical. It reacts. It's reactionary. This is what animals do. The child that hasn't really formed a conscious thought process. He's just imitating, mimicking, and reacting. So to gauge whether you're a good parent or not before you even become a parent is have a pet. Have a pet. And how does your pet turn out? Does your pet own you? Does your pet run the house amok? You can't control your pet? Or is your pet in tune? Does your pet listen to you? Is your pet mindful, respectful? It knows its boundaries, right? This is a pretty good gauge, in my opinion, of your parenting skills, of how your parenting skills would be. Because I know a lot of us go into parenting thinking, am I going to be a good parent? So it's am I a good pet owner, right? Am I a good pet owner? This is a pretty good gauge because there's never been a house that I've ever went into or a family structure that I've ever seen where they were opposite. And what I mean by that is where you had animals, pets that minded and were completely respectful and knew that they were pets, knew their boundaries, and a child that was just out of control. Or a child that was completely disciplined and respectful and all that, and animals that were out of control. I've never seen that together. Maybe it's just me. I mean, I don't know. But these are just observations of mine. That's why I share it with y'all. But for me, that's a good gauge. I love you guys, man. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for viewing. Keep it strong. Keep it pimping. Keep the show going. Please visit www.cominghomecoalition.com. Donate. We need to keep this community center going. $1 a month. Everybody can do $1 a month to help a community grow and flourish and have its own place, man, its own little safety net that it knows is for the people. And that's how I'm going to make sure that this brick and mortar here is run. That people in the community know they can come get life coaching, they can come get classes, they can come get awareness, they can come get almost any damn thing that they want pretty much for free. So listen, I'm the first one to say there's no programs. I'm going to make sure that there is programs, and I'm going to go out there and tell the people there's programs now. So, and I need your guys' help. $1 a month, man. Other than that, you guys stay safe. We're wrapping the year up. Ain't got too many more weeks. We'll be back on Thursday night with Demetrius Nuggles. You know, Thursday night, Get Right. That show in itself is growing, but I need y'all to help me get Saturday night Cell Block off the ground too. So spread the love, man. Tell the people. Spread the word. Voice for the voiceless. Thomas Freeman. And I will see you shortly. Peace out. Much love.